Good evening and welcome back to Normal Ireland Live. I'm Callum Taylor and this evening I am joined by our very own wonderful Sarah Dalal. Sarah, how are you this evening?
Yeah, great, thank you. I just looked at my hair in the camera and I was shocked. But yeah, really, really good, thank you. It's good to be here. I just came back from a little staycation in Somerset and that was
Nice.
nice.
Nice. What's the
Yeah.
weather doing down there? Is it as hot as it is everywhere else?
It was warm. It
Mm.
was, but I'm now back in my hometown. It was nice and like I didn't realize there were so many fields. So, I don't know, maybe I'm just not
I
that
mean,
cultured.
Somerset's known for its huge cities and urban sprawl, isn't it, really?
Yeah, like a few sheep and cows dotted here and there. It's quite nice.
Well, that's good. Well, I've just come back from a week in Paris, in France, and the weather has
Yes,
been very hot. But I gather that it's been brought back with me because
it's
I think
you.
we're expecting it to be about 30 degrees again this week here. So
Yeah, it's you. You're bringing the heat, and I'm sure you're gonna bring the heat tonight on a Monday, aren't you, Callum?
always do that, Sarah. I always do that. Um, Coming up this evening, Starmer's likability rating is in the gutter. Literally everybody hates him. Over 500 protesters have been arrested for showing support for Palestine action. And the right wing lying about immigration figures? Never. Our very own Lewis Aaron has debunked some dodgy digits. As always, remember to like and share the stream. And we will come to your comments at the end of the stream too. So please let us know your thoughts on each of the stories in the comments section. But moving on to our first story. Everybody hates Keir Starmer. That's what the polling shows, at least. Around 70% of the public believe that he is doing badly as Prime Minister. This is according to polling from YouGov. Now, there is something cathartic about seeing the man who treated the left of his party so badly begin to plummet in the polls. Not everyone was aware of how much we dislike Starmer, however. And they don't know why we favour people like Zach Polanski or Zara Sultana. So, Turn Left's very own Ben McLean went on to GB News yesterday to remind them.
Editor and contributor at Turn Left Media, Ben McLean. Ben, I'll start with you. I mean, listen, I think that gets to a point, and we've seen a ministerial resignation this week over basic hypocrisy, where you just start to go, do you ever mean anything you ever say? Do you get that feeling as someone who's on the left? Do you still get that feeling from this government?
Oh, Keir Starmer is a morally corrupt serial liar. So to give you give you a bit of background into why the left of the former left of the Labour Party dislikes Keir Starmer so much. In 2020, he ran to be leader of the Labour Party, and I was one of the people who voted for him on the basis that he was essentially like, I quite like Jeremy Corbyn. A view here which is probably not widely held, but I quite like Jeremy Corbyn, and he essentially sold himself as Jeremy Corbyn in a suit. He made 10 pledges and said, "Okay, so we're gonna stick to these 10 pledges." But the word pledge, it's a cleaning fluid for Keir Starmer. He made the pledges. As soon as he was elected leader of the Labour Party, everything switched and he started listening to Morgan McSweeney. He broke all of his promises. I've probably disliked Keir Starmer, and the left of the left more generally in this country has probably disliked Keir Starmer for a lot longer than people have been paying attention to his dishonesty in terms of his overall dishonesty. As to the 18, 16-year-old thing, of course it's hypocrisy. Of course it is.
Yeah.
It's
hard to defend, isn't it? It's quite hard to defend it. I mean, realistic, it's quite hard to defend it, I think. That's the kind of the problem he's got here. Dan.
Yeah, people just don't like him. Now, some of the conversation that COG had on GB News included talk of the Rwanda scheme, which of course wasn't going to work as a deterrent. Morality aside, Saudi border forces often shoot refugees, and if that doesn't deter them, the tiny percentage chance of being sent to Rwanda also won't do it. But that aside, Sarah, how important is it to detach Keir Starmer from the image of the left as a whole?
I think it's absolutely essential, like not just for the health of the left, but for the health of like political debate in Britain. He is a spineless freak, and I think Starmer might hold the Labour rosette, but he does not represent socialist politics at all. And if we allow him to be seen as the face of the left, and I think we set ourselves up for disaster. This guy is wearing a red tie, but he is representing Tory politics. Like, he is just fueled by austerity, fueled with the motivation to really, really harm the most vulnerable in our society. And like I said, we're going to be setting ourselves up for disaster. I think he's systematically purged left voices from his party and completely abandoned every major progressive pledge that he ran on. Exactly what I still call him Cog, but like he now goes by Ben. Completely turned on every single pledge that he ran on, and he's rebranded Labour as a safe pair of hands for the establishment. But that's scary, because this matters to us as the public, because the public, especially younger voters and working class communities and the disabled, have already been burned many, many times. They were told and promised things, and then there were U-turns on it. So they were promised real change, and they got hollowed out like in this Blairite rerun. And I think if Starmer is like conflated with anything to do with the left, then every time he U-turns or fails, it's us that's going to be blamed. It's us on the left that are going to be burned as a result of that. They're going to say, you guys don't know your left from your right. You guys don't know how to string coherent sentences. You don't know what it is that you stand for. So, and we've seen that before. Like the right wing, the right wing press will happily lump every Labour leader into the same box just to like discredit the very idea of radical politics. So the left that I feel like I belong to stands for public ownership. It stands for workers' rights. It stands for a foreign policy that is based on peace and solidarity, and ending poverty pay, and defending migrants. Like, we're not seeing that with Starmer at the moment, and actually taking the climate crisis in a way that's actually serious. Starmer just stands for triangulation, and I think authoritarianism at this point. He's literally, licking America's arse at this point as well, and is chasing headlines in the Daily Mail, and is making as few promises as possible so he can't be held to account. And I think if we don't draw a bright red line between our politics and his, and the public will think, well, if that was the left, it's not worth fighting for, you loony left, you fucking snowflakes, this, that, and the other. And I think that would be a bloody tragedy, because socialism, for me, massive socialist here, offers real answers to Britain's crises. It offers answers to Britain's austerity, answers that Starmer has no intention of delivering at all.
Something that concerns me is that the same polling shows that Nigel Farage is now the most popular political leader in the country, but he gets that title on roughly a 30% likability rating, right? Mm-hmm. Which I think is reflective of what we're going to see in the next general election, where I still maintain my belief that Reform UK could get the keys to number 10 on between 25 and 30% of the vote. And to be the most popular leader on, not even a third of the public liking you, shows just how far Keir Starmer and Labour have fallen. And one of the reasons that is the case is because they keep trying to appease the right wing. Yeah. They are trying their hardest to be like Reform. And Reform voters don't need a Reform light. If they want Reform, they're going to vote for Nigel Farage's party. They're not going to vote Labour. But looking at other people that are there on the political landscape now, do you think that the likes of, say, Zach Polanski or Zara Sultana can push Starmer more to the left? They've got lots of positive cases for immigration, for example, that could succeed in doing that. Or do you think it's just a case of Starmer being unsalvageable at this point?
I think he's unsalvageable. I really don't like the guy at all. Like, but does that not show that he's absolutely spineless, though? The fact that he's trying to like appease these people are trying to go for reform, and like, trying to step into like these culture wars. Like, he clearly has no sense of direction. But the likes of Sultan and Polanski, like, they're not just defending, migration, but they're reframing it as something that's positive and humane and necessary, which is how it should be framed, because that's how we should be leading. They speak from a place of like legitimate principle, unlike Starmer. I think Starmer, he positions himself from a place of fear. And you can see that whenever he does his U-turns or the posturing that he does, like just trying to emulate that we are working class people. Look at my cabinet full of state school students, essentially people that went to state schools. But like, fuck that. I don't want to like fall into that trap. But Sultana in particular, I think she reminds us that migration is not a problem to be managed, which is what everyone seems to be doing at the moment. It's literally a human reality shaped by war and destabilization that's been happening from these Western countries. Climate change also a massive example. We're in our fourth heat wave this summer, which is fucking wild, and massive inequality that is caused or worsened by the very policies of the West. So she makes that case with clarity and compassion, and that's something that's missing from politics at the moment. And Polanski, who is my hope and dream for the Greens, like that's just my personal opinion, he kind of reinforces that same narrative. But, and I'm going to say the massive but, I think Starmer is largely unsalvageable on this front because he's made a deliberate strategic choice to treat immigration as this political weakness and to chase the votes of people swayed by years of hostile environment rhetoric. And I think that's why he's softened language on safe routes and refused to challenge the scapegoating of asylum seekers. I do not see him speaking out about how they're being harmed as much as they are how they're being scapegoated, how they're being chased. And like, I'm seeing videos every single day and it really enrages me. I have to step away from the internet sometimes of people literally stopping to talk to people who are of a certain race and asking them if they are Muslim and saying, did you come by boat? It's wild. This place is not safe anymore. And Starmer as well has played into this narrative of being tough on borders, and it's the same logic that drove Labour in the 2000s to talk about British jobs for British workers. Like that is an approach that hands the framing to the right and leaves the moral case for migration abandoned. So could Sultana and Polanski shift public opinion over time? 100%. And could that in turn pressure Starmer? Possibly, but he's too busy focusing on Farage and the pressure that he's getting from there.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk today about, the government are now saying that they want to change and tighten some of the human rights legislation because they say that people are abusing it in order to stay, to prevent them, like foreign criminals from being deported, for example, with the right to a family life and other things that are afforded to us in the ECHR. How much of that do you think is necessary to avoid us leaving the ECHR? I ask that because the fear that I have is that we're going to end up with another situation like what we saw in 2015, where we're going to have Nigel Farage saying, let's leave the ECHR. We're probably going to have a Conservative Party led by a different leader saying, vote for us and we'll give you a referendum on it, or at the very least, if not, will vote for us and will take us out, like what we saw with David Cameron trying to compete with the UKIP vote in 2015. And either way, that's probably going to lead, if either of those get into power, to us leaving the ECHR. So do you think that by being tight on immigration now, that do you think it's sort of a genius plan to try and appease those people so that they don't push for us leaving the ECHR, or do you think that it's just going to lead us that way and actually push people more towards that case?
I think we just push people more. Like if that is Starmer's way of trying to get people on side, then he's going a really weird way about it. Because even if you start clamping down on what people seem to be so worried about, which is migration, it's these small boat migrants who are coming into the country, blah blah blah. Like it's not going to go anywhere because people are already angry. And they already see Starmer as a dishonest individual who has no backbone. That is his defining feature. His defining feature is that he's a spineless guy. Like he is willing to kind of ditch entire platforms, and he's not doing it accidentally. He's doing it because he's just trying to appease the masses. Like you do it because you never really intended to stick to the things that you wanted to stick to in the first place. Like his leadership pledges we've seen got thrown out the window. So he has been trying to pitch to Labour's left and this centre left membership, but actually he doesn't know where he's going with it because he's too busy just trying to like appease these ridiculous headlines, like I was saying earlier.
So you don't think that dishonesty is coincidental? Then you would argue it's a feature of his politics more generally, would you?
Oh, 100%. Like that this whole thing, the 10 leadership pledge, was designed to have him win the leadership. Like that's calculated politics at its finest. Like Starmer's entire project has been about appearing palatable to the establishment while still harvesting the votes of people who want change. And he'll say one thing to members and another thing to corporate donors and another again to the press. On Gaza, he initially endorsed even Israel's like bombardment without hesitation, then backtracked slightly only when public anger became impossible to ignore. But then we're seeing things kind of go to shit at the moment. On workers' rights, he basically promised to repeal anti-union laws, then watered it down. Like, it's just PR. Like, this guy is not well, maybe actually he is a politician, but I don't know. It's just like there's no conviction there, and we can see it. The most embarrassing part is that it can be seen from a mile away, and I think that's why his approval ratings are tanking, despite the Conservatives imploding. This would be the best time for Labour, but it's actually turning out to be the shittest time for them. People can sense that he stands for nothing but career advancement and votes. And I think the danger here is that when someone like Starmer is presented as the responsible left, and then he betrays every promise he kind of put out there, he poisons the whole thing for anyone who comes after him, because it's going to feed that cynicism that the left are all the same.
And I don't think it helps when we've got the likes of Reform UK constantly saying that we currently have a socialist left-wing government, because when people like Zach Polanski or Zara Sultana and Corbyn's Your Party come along and say we would like to offer socialism, people are hearing the media promote comments from Reform, from Richard Tice, from even from the Conservatives, who are saying, well, if you want socialism, we've got it now, and this is what happens. And then all the socialists are here like, well, no, this isn't socialism. This isn't what we want. Which I think is why his likability is so crap and so far in the gutter at the moment. But listen, we should probably move on. Thank you, Sarah. I oppose genocide. I support Palestine action. Those are the words that over 500 protesters were arrested on Saturday for writing on placards in Parliament Square. A statement released by the Metropolitan Police said, the total number of people arrested during the policing operation in central London on Saturday has been confirmed as 532. The overwhelming majority of arrests, 522, were for displaying an item, in this case a placard, in support of a prescribed organisation, in this case Palestine Action, contrary to Section 13 of the Terrorism Act 2000. One of those arrests took place at the form-up of the Palestine Coalition March in Russell Square, but the remaining 521 arrests took place at the protest in Parliament Square. There were a further 10 arrests, broken down as follows: 6 arrests for assaults on officers. Fortunately, none were seriously injured. 1 arrest for obstructing a constable in the execution of his or her duty. 2 for breaching Section 14 Public Order Act conditions. And 1 for a racially aggravated public order offence at Section 5 Public Order Act. Now, these arrests come following the prescription of the group Palestine Action as a prescribed organisation, something which Parliament voted for before the summer recess. Now, according to data published by the Met Police, among the group of alleged terrorist supporters were 15 people between the ages of 80 and 89, with half those arrested being over the age of 60. Now, it's important to note that no charges have been brought at this time, but those arrested have mostly been released on bail. Sarah, surely this can't go on. What's your reaction to the scenes that we've witnessed in London over the weekend?
I actually don't even know what to say. Like, I literally don't know what to say. I was speaking to you when it was all happening. I was like, oh, like 200 people got arrested. You're like, no, like over 400 people. I was like, what? The last time I saw it was at 200. I'm outraged by this. Like, I'm in utter disbelief that this is happening. And this, I feel like this is foregrounding a deeper sense of foreboding, like about where Britain's literally heading at the moment. We've got over 500 people have been arrested for literally saying, hey, I oppose genocide and I support Palestine action. That's fucking insane. And this isn't even like a riot. This is actually such a peaceful protest. The overwhelming majority, like you said, were just standing there with signs. And I think the details kind of make it even more surreal. Like 15 of those who were arrested were actually in their 80s, and about half of them were over 60. So yeah, we've got pensioners who who've literally lived through the worst of the worst, like the Blitz and the miners' strikes and the poll tax protests, now being branded as terrorist supporters for opposing the bombing of Gaza and like starving children. And I think the optics are absolutely appalling. I think you've got like these temporary police protesting tents that have been, set up in Westminster just to deal with the numbers. And it's all because the government wants to criminalise solidarity of Palestinians. And this is literally the state attempting to deploy counter-terrorism laws that have been designed for groups like ISIS, against peaceful protesters. And it is authoritarianism. I see this government as an authoritarian government with some stupid posh accent, and I always get done for my accent, so this is actually, let me not be a prick about it, but and it kind of sends a clear message here. Like, if you take a moral stance that the government doesn't like, they're going to find a legal mechanism to punish you, and that's repression at its finest. How can we be a democratic nation? How can we even align with the definition of democracy if you are silencing people? And this is a huge warning to every other movement that decides to come out and say, I oppose this and I oppose that, from climate activists to trade unionists. It's frightening.
I mean, look, the bottom line here is the government are going to have to act if they want the protests to stop. But we've got police officers that have told journalists that they feel like policing these protests is a waste of resources. Like you mentioned, there's temporary processing tents that have been set up in Westminster to deal with the sheer numbers of people arrested. I think this is a record for the highest number of people arrested for terrorism charges in one day. I think the last time we saw this number of arrests at one event were during the poll tax riots. So it's history in the making. But the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, she told Sky News that those protesting the prescription of Palestine Action perhaps, quotes, don't know the full nature of this organisation. And she describes them as not a non-violent group. So, I mean, Sarah, either the government needs to release more information that proves that they were right to prescribe Palestine Action, because there's clearly some suggestion from Yvette Cooper here that there's more to this group than what we maybe know. Well, if that's the case, tell us about it then, because I'm sure many of the people that are out there with placards saying they support this group maybe wouldn't do so if there was evidence or information that maybe they're not party to, right? Or they need to reassess the law around showing support for them, because this cannot surely go on.
Yeah.
And we're going to see this. There are more protests planned in the coming weeks and the coming months, and we are going to see more and more people in the centre of London with signs that say, I oppose genocide and I support Palestine Action. And if this continues in the numbers and to the extent that protesters are planning on it to continue, it's going to be a great day in London every time those people protest for all the other criminals that want to get away with it, because there's not going to be any police to police the actual problems that need policing, because they're all going to be busy arresting grannies.
Yeah, arresting grannies. Fuck you, Yvette Cooper. Oh, you know what? I'm probably going to get kicked out, turn left, and also out of this, because I'm just too this Labour government, get the fuck out of my face. Like, literally, I get so irritated. They're so irritating. You're so right, Callum. Like, exactly. The government is hiding behind these vague claims that Palestine Action's full nature, without actually producing any evidence that justifies treating them as a terrorist group. Like, they're probably going to latch on to the fact that they did the red paint. Like, oh my God, red paint on a plane. Like,
that
travesty. Yeah, go ahead.
But I was just going to say, even that we know that wasn't the original reason that they were being prescribed.
Exactly.
They started the process of prescribing Palestine Action before
they did
the action on the RAF base even took place.
Exactly. But this is the thing, though.
To the point where it wasn't even, I think if I'm right, it wasn't even mentioned in the initial court documents, because it wasn't the reasoning behind it. So, it's perfectly normal when the government prescribe a group as a terrorist group. It's perfectly normal that the government or the secret services or whoever it may be might have confidential information and prior intel about a group or the planned actions of a group that they're not going to share with the public.
Yeah.
But when we've got over 500 people being arrested for showing support for one of these groups, if it is the case that the government have more information that they're not sharing, they need to share it. And if it's not the case, then they need to do something. I mean, what do you think they're going to do next? What do you think the next step will be?
God, beyond this, like, come on. I feel like arresting pensioners is probably the lowest of the low, right? I literally saw these videos of these women who can't even walk, like they can't even walk with pace, and they're surrounded by all these police officers. Leave them alone. Like, this is the thing. If they have proof of serious violent intent, like, let's see it. So far what we've seen from Palestine Action is direct action, property damage, paint, blockades, targeting companies that are complicit in arms sales to Israel. That might be illegal under existing laws, but it's a far cry from terrorism. That's my opinion. I think if the government can't produce, like you said, evidence, then this is nakedly political prescription. The use of counter-terror law to shut down a movement that's causing embarrassment. That's what it is. And the arrests make clear just how dangerous that precedent is. If you can arrest people supporting a protest group, you can criminalize any form of dissent by simply
Well,
banning the group first.
just to clarify your point, and I hear what you're saying. Officially, in law, Palestine Action are a prescribed organisation.
I know.
So they're being arrested for supporting a prescribed organisation,
Yes.
not a protest group.
Okay, so let me maybe that's my opinion. That's gonna be my opinion. I need to now kind of dissociate from Turn Left just for a second. I know that we're part of Turn Left, I'm part of Turn Left, but the way I view Palestine Action is a protest group. That's how I view them. How they're prescribed is something entirely different. And I know you're looking at me like, Sarah, be careful. I am careful, I'm trying to be careful, but I can't hide what's actually inside. Like, look, we've got senior establishment voices who are warning against it. Like, Shami's basically calling it a mistake of poll tax, proportions. And David Davis, hardly a leftist, says it's abuse of the law. So there's something being said here. The police themselves think it's a waste of resources. That says something. And if this continues, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and on that, the reports I was hearing today from some of the journalists were that the police that have been saying this, then they're not saying that they disagree with the prescription. They're saying, cool, okay, they're a prescribed group, that's fine. We acknowledge that. But what they have an issue with is that they feel as though, bear in mind, you had hundreds of police officers being shipped in from halfway across the country. I mean, there were people from Wales, officers from Wales in Parliament Square on Saturday. And a number of police officers have voiced their concerns that this isn't what they joined the force to do. They didn't join the police force to drag away, 80-something-year-old grandmas who were sat peacefully, albeit with a sign that says that they support a prescribed organisation. But that isn't what they joined the police force to do.
Exactly. And if it continues, I think it's only going to damage public trust in the police and the courts, because it's going to entrench the idea that the government's answer to moral opposition is mass arrest, and I think that's a road we don't want to go down.
I mean, there was a government minister on the media rounds this morning. I can't remember her name. She's Alex somebody. I think she's in Wales, who said that in the UK, to put it bluntly, we don't support terrorists. So if people are out in the streets and they are saying that they support a terrorist organisation, it is right for those people to be arrested. But I think what concerns me about this particular case, though, is that there were many questions raised by MPs within Parliament about the prescription of this group. All of the Green MPs voted voted against it. There was a number of Lib Dem MPs that voted in both lobbies, which is basically a form of abstention. And there were a handful of others that did vote against, even though it overwhelmingly got voted for and passed through Parliament. But when you've got well-respected politicians, when you've got people like John McDonnell, screaming at the speaker to try and clarify whether, if he walks out of Parliament after a vote has passed, is he going to get arrested if he goes and joins a protest with supporters outside? Clearly there is something wrong. And I do feel that the way that it's being handled right now clearly isn't working, because these protests aren't going to stop. And we're going to see, we've already got a crisis within our justice system. We've already got prisons that are full. We've already got courts that are full and a backlog of court hearings, etc. And arresting people for showing support for a prescribed group in a peaceful way maybe is something that the law needs to be readjusted about. I think it's one thing to hold a sign that says you support a group or an organisation, whoever that may be, and it's another thing to act in a way that's violent or that's hateful, or that's aggressive towards another group or another people. And it also begs the question around freedom of speech. What's interesting is I've not seen the usual freedom of speech brigade coming out in support for these protesters. I wonder why that might be. But equally, if we're in a situation where people can't write something on a piece of card. I mean, we saw it after the Queen died, right? When we had protesters with "Not My King" signs, or even protesters who had blank pieces of paper who told the police they were going to write "Not My King" on there, who were then getting warnings from police being told, well, if you do that, you're going to be arrested for saying "Not My King." So, there's already a history in recent times in this country of protesters being criminalized or being threatened with criminalization for holding signs. And regardless of who or what they're showing support for, if this was going on in China or Russia right now, we would be shouting about it and calling it a human rights violation. Amnesty International have said that this is deeply concerning. When we've got groups like Amnesty International, essentially, putting the country on red alert for how they are treating protesters at the moment, we know that they're doing something wrong.
Yeah, completely agree with you on so many levels. You worded it perfectly.
But it is worth pointing.
Sorry.
No, but it is worth. It's fine.
Sorry, Callum. I will just say, like, if it means saying if saying I oppose genocide gets you arrested, and I think it shows the state of the world that we live in at the moment, the state of the country that we live in at the moment, I will openly say that I oppose genocide, because I think anyone in their right mind would say that they oppose genocide. And if anyone's against that, then really look at yourself in the mirror, or watch the news. Literally force yourself to watch what's happening at the moment on the news, and you'll be moved.
And the police will say that if you're stood there with a sign that says I oppose genocide, you won't be arrested. But if that also then goes on to say you support a prescribed organisation, then you will be, because that is the law in this country at the moment.
Insane.
But while people are hello. While this is all going on and people are being arrested in the UK for showing support for Palestine action, there have been reports today of 5 Al Jazeera journalists being killed in Gaza by the IDF. Now, this was a targeted attack on one of those journalists, Anas al-Sharif, who the IDF claim was the leader of a Hamas cell, despite the fact that he'd previously been arrested and then released by Israeli soldiers. Of course, al-Sharif previously denied these claims, and the United Nations have said that there is no evidence that he has any ties to Hamas currently. These claims are clearly nothing other than a desperate attempt from the Israeli regime to justify the killing of more journalists. And let's not forget that Israel do not allow international journalists into Gaza to report on what is happening. So the only people that are there who can actually report on what is going on, on the ground, are Palestinian journalists. And Israel are now responsible for the deaths of almost 270 journalists in Gaza since they launched their attack on Palestine following October the 7th. I mean, Sarah, we know why Israel don't want journalists to report the war crimes that they're committing. But do you think that the international community will start waking up to what's actually going on, given how many journalists have now lost their lives at the hands of the IDF?
Well, they bloody better. If they don't, then all their talk about press freedom and the rules-based order is absolutely meaningless. Like, I think, how much evidence do you need? I'm getting a bit frustrated at the moment. Like, call me a conspiracist, call me a tinfoil hat wearer, but these are deliberate strikes. This is what I think. This is not a tragic accident. Since October 7th, nearly 270 journalists have been killed in Gaza, almost all Palestinian. And Israel doesn't let foreign journalists in, like you said. So these reports are the only eyes and ears that the world has. To target them means that you're targeting the truth itself. And if you don't allow the media or journalists to go into a certain part of a certain place, then it might be said that you're trying to hide something, right? The claim that al-Sharif was Hamas is unsubstantiated. The UN has literally said there's no evidence, and Israel had detained and released them before. So this is about controlling the narrative, killing the messengers so the war crimes happen in the dark. And I think when we, as watchers and seers of this, witness these things happen and confront it, because we have to sit, our privilege says we have to sit and watch this stuff, it's damning. Public opinion globally is shifting as we see it. Protests are growing, and some governments in the global south and even parts of Europe are breaking with Israel. But the UK and the US are still given like political cover in some ways, and it's going to take enormous public pressure to kind of change that. So I do think that each act like this kind of chips away at the facade, but because even the most like loyal Western allies kind of find it hard to justify the targeting of journalists and press vests, like it is a war crime. But the question is like, how many have to die before people actually wake up? It's turning into actual consequences at the moment. We are seeing death after death after death of people trying to show what's happening around the world. Make it make sense. I was watching the news today and just watching the video of Al Sharif with his daughter as she was hugging him. And I've seen Al Sharif on Al Jazeera before when he cried with this woman who was starving. He was like crying with her because she was hungry. This is a man that was so compassionate, so dedicated to getting the truth out there. And what happens? What happened? It's absolutely insane. And I think if anyone attempts to deny that this is actually intentional, their head needs a wobble.
Well, I mean, they can't deny it's intentional because the IDF and the Israeli government have very openly said that this was a targeted attack on Al Sharif. Obviously, it's oops, yeah, there's been some collateral damage here because 4 other people have lost their lives. They weren't the targets, though. It was just this one guy because he's got these ties that he hasn't got to Hamas. Do you think that we will ever see the likes of David Lammy and our government actually start to sanction Israel properly for the war crimes that they're committing? Because it feels like every time that a new report comes out, I mean, I remember going back right to when this all started. Well, I say started when this restarted following October 7th, when we were all saying, we were, people like you and me were saying this on our platforms or, on social media or whatever else. And other commentators were talking about the fact that Israel were deliberately targeting hospitals. And they denied it. They said, no, we're not. There is not a single hospital in Palestine now that hasn't been bombed. But then it's like, oh well, okay, so they have done that, but they're not committing genocide. And then they come out and they describe it as ethnic cleansing, right? They say we literally want to cleanse people from Gaza. And then it's, oh, well, but they don't mean that when they say it. And that's only one individual that says that. And then they kill 270 almost journalists, which are, like you say, are war crimes. Oh, yeah, but they weren't targeted attacks. And if they were targeted attacks, it was because the members of Hamas, and then they blockade food and water and aid from getting into people that need it. And then it's like, oh yeah, but last week they allowed 100 trucks in, so they're obviously not horrible human beings because they're getting some food to them, and it's all Hamas's fault because they're stealing it. It just feels like, I mean, I can go on, but it just feels like every single time Israel commit a war crime, the international community, even though the narrative does seem to be shifting slightly, and there certainly seems to be more concern now than there was, a year or so ago, but even still, Israel commit a war crime, and the international community, not on the whole, there are some that don't do this, but certainly West, certainly America, certainly the UK will look at it and they'll find an excuse, or they'll say, well, yeah, we understand why that might be a war crime, but actually Israel say it's not, therefore it can't be. You've got the international courts, you've got the ICJ, you've got Amnesty International, you've got the UN, for goodness sake. You've got all these well-respected bodies, international bodies, saying that war crimes are being committed. And we're seeing it with our own eyes. Killing journalists is a war crime.
Yeah.
Targeting the press deliberately is a war crime. But what?
What shouldn't deny it?
He might have been involved with Hamas, so we're just gonna let them get away with it again.
Absolutely insane. I mean, this is the thing though, and I'm what frustrates me more is the fact that, sorry, I just need my laptop to charge, is the fact that they will sit on the fact, like you said, it's the excuses. Oh, but yeah, they're Hamas. Oh, but they're being anti-Semitic. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. It's constant excuses for the fact that they are doing what they are doing. What they're doing is absolutely egregious. It's barbaric. It's insane to think that there are people starving day in and day out and being bombed day in and day out from a place that they should be able to call home. And you asked about David Lammy. Do I think that they'll do any sanctions? Surely it should have been done by now. how much evidence do you need to start sanctioning Israel? Start putting sanctions in place. How much information do you need? How much evidence do you need? How much do you need to be confronted with? There is so much out there that shows that war crime after war crime has happened. So much is out there. I'm so sick and tired of because we're complicit in this. Like we are part of this country too. I know that we speak so openly about it, but we are complicit in this living in the West. The fact that we are somewhat involved in all of this. I don't know what else this government needs. They are just some spineless idiots who don't give a flying fuck about people at all whatsoever. It's all about retaining power. The same reason why Netanyahu is continuing his just continuous harm on innocent civilians is the same reason why anyone's in power, to be honest, just latching onto it to keep themselves in it for as long as possible. And I think that's the motivation that comes behind all of this, and that's the saddest part. That's the most heartbreaking part when it comes to all of this. So yeah, I don't know what else to say or do. I will still continue watching everything I can, still expose myself to everything I can, because I understand that my privilege is there, and I'll continue to speak out about the things that I think should be happening. The likes of David Lammy, don't trust him, couldn't trust him as far as I can throw him, and I can't throw him very far. So
I mean, when you've got, there was a commentator on the radio earlier that was talking about the arrests, and they believed that there was, some evidence to suggest that one of the reasons that Palestine Action were prescribed is because the government were essentially getting back at them for highlighting the fact that the government are complicit in these war crimes, right? Now, I'm not going to say whether that is or isn't the case. I don't know, but I think the guy made a good argument for it, right? And if that is the case, and if the government are acting, and now arresting hundreds of people for supporting a group that they've prescribed because they were embarrassed that said group were calling out their complicity, if they're going to go that far and take action like that, can we really trust them to do the right thing and call a spade and sanction the state that is committing these atrocities? Because I can tell you now, history will not look fondly on our government when it comes to a lot of things actually at the moment, but certainly on this issue, right? 20, 30, 40 years down the line, when people look back at what happened, they're not going to say, oh yeah, the UK were on the right side of history there. They're not going to say David Lammy did everything he possibly could. It's not going to happen.
won't say that. They won't say that. Obviously, of course they're not going to say that, because look at how complicit we are. The facts are there. The facts are there. We are not some helpless bystander. Like, oh, we're not. Like, we are complicit in this entirely. We're watching the horror unfold in Gaza. We are complicit in the horror that's unfolding in Gaza. And active participants in that. Every bomb dropped, every home that's been leveled, every hospital, every journalist that's been killed has Western fingerprints all over it, and that needs to really, really sink in, and that's what needs to be told in the history books in the future when people study this stuff. We know the facts are the facts. The US literally hands Israel $3.8 billion a year in military aid since October 2023. And all of the things that we supply to Israel is absolutely insane, or have supplied to Israel.
And let's not forget as well that the war crimes that we are seeing them commit are just the ones that we're hearing about.
Exactly.
Considering they do not allow foreign press anywhere near the Gaza Strip and into Palestine to see what is going on and to report on what is going on, I think it's pretty safe to say that there will be horrors that are occurring to people over there that we can't even begin to imagine, that we do not know about, because we're only seeing what is being reported, and there's so much more going on beneath the surface that can't be reported because Israel will not allow the journalists there to do the reporting.
Yeah, and I agree. And like I said as well, this goes back to the Balfour Declaration as well. Like we have this colonial mandate in Palestine that kind of laid the groundwork for dispossession. So since then, Western powers have treated Israel as a strategic outpost. But I think now that when we talk about Gaza, it shouldn't just be about what Israel is doing. It should also be about our complicity in that. Like, we have to talk about the hands that are holding Israel up in the way that it's being held up, and that would be the West. That would be the UK, the US, and any other country in the West that's involved in this. So the bombs, the money, the cover, the excuses, they all come from the West, and that needs to be in the conversation too.
Yeah. Now, I'm aware of time, so I am going to move on. But before I do, if you are enjoying the show, then please like the stream. And if you're not a subscriber, then hit that button. As we do tell you every time, because it's true, we are just 5 volunteers, and we are doing all of this and putting all this together around our full-time jobs. So if you want to see us grow, then you can head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support, where there is a link to our Patreon, where you can support us monthly, or you can follow the link to give us a one-time contribution. Alternatively, you can become a YouTube member for just 99p, and you do have the ability to gift memberships as well, which I think is happening right now as we speak. It's more important now than ever that we have a radical independent media, so please help wherever you can. Now, moving on to our final story of the evening. Many right-wing media outlets have been citing a right-wing think tank, the Centre for Migration Control, that apparently shows migrants are committing more crimes as a proportion than British people. In this particular study, Afghans are committing a far higher proportion of crimes than other groups. But is it true? The first thing to note is that this think tank is fake. Our very own Lewis Aaron has been doing some background work debunking myths and doing some proper investigative journalism, unlike the corporate media, and has made some quite interesting discoveries.
This is a message to any journalists in the UK. I've already done your job for you. So everybody today who's arguing about the data that Nigel Farage, Robert Jenrick, Kemi Badenoch are talking about when it comes to sexual crimes in London with foreign nationals, I already debunked it with my friend Sneaker on this app. But for some reason, you guys don't actually do any investigative work, and you would find out if you did that the data is literally from a senior reform campaigner posing as a think tank, and I've already debunked the data and how he literally lied. The Centre for Migration Control is one guy called Robert Bates, who is a senior reform campaigner. That's it. One guy and a laptop. And the freedom of information request that he got for the data for sexual crimes in London, he literally deleted the pages from the Met Police. His article where he's like, oh, here is the original data from the Met Police. It's not the original data. It's not the original sheet. You can go to their website and find the original data where they specifically explain that this data can be the same person counted twice, because they could be arrested and then released and then arrested again later. They could be arrested and released, and then when they come back for a court session, they can be brought back into custody. It's the same person counted twice, and they specifically explain this in a tab on their data sheet. But Robert Bates, the senior reform campaigner from the Centre of Migration Control, deleted that. Very misleading. And also, when it comes to comparing populations, he's made up the population numbers. Just any journalist in the country who's talking about this today, because it's literally a hot topic right now and everybody's talking about these crime statistics, go and look up the population data that he used. He made it up. He says in this chart where Afghans are at the top, there's 12,000 of them in London. No, there's not. There's between 40 and 50,000, immediately changing the numbers. He's decreased the population of Afghans in hundreds of percentile points to make it look like it's worse. And he's presented the data squished together over a period of years, and he's come up with this number where it's 74 in 10,000. No, it's not. Per year, it's between 2 and 3 per 10,000. Go and look into the data. This is so frustrating that some guy off social media who has no formal training in any of this is debunking this within a few minutes with my friend Sneaker. She's in the description below. She's done videos on this too. This is ridiculous that this person is not being held accountable. He's a senior reform campaigner who runs a one-man think tank.
I mean, firstly, huge respect and shout out to both Lewis Aaron and Sneaker for this work, because they've gone through it and very quickly and very easily, proved that this is a load of nonsense. Sarah, I want to get your thoughts on this, because this isn't just the usual tricks of the corporate media pushing anti-immigrant narratives, but multiple right-wing outlets who are flagrantly, I can't get my words out today, who are flagrantly using misleading statistics from a fake immigration think tank.
Yeah. I mean, next level disinformation, right? And you're right. Big up Lewis and Sneakrit for doing that. I mean, it's so interesting as well. Like the Center for Migration Control, like it sounds really, really respectable, right? But what they need to control is their facts because they are just some political sock puppet. Like there is like zero transparency there, no peer review, no serious methodology, and yet the right wing outlets, GB News, GBBs, like they love it. Far right blogs, they all run with the findings, claiming that Afghan migrants commit more crimes than British citizens. Like, and it's the oldest trick in the book. Like, invent a credible sounding institution and produce it as though it's like these cherry picked facts that we found, and like these fabricated statistics that people are going to fall for, obviously, because these fabricated statistics are going to be at the headline of these right-wing outlets. And we know for a fact, and I say this stats every single time, only 75% of people are going to read that title, and then 25% are going to read the whole article to then find out that actually maybe those facts aren't as true when they are contextualized properly. So they know most readers won't check the source or even read it properly. And by the time that lie is exposed, the damage is already done because people are already scared, they're fearful, the prejudice, the resentment, it all builds up and it's already been planted. So, the real data from the ONS or from academic studies will show that, like Lewis said, that migrants commit fewer crimes than the native-born population, but that's an inconvenient narrative for people that want to thrive on division. So they instead, and again, I feel like I'm echoing Lewis's amazing points that he said already, but instead they manufacture these facts that they want, and I don't even want to like call it just sloppy journalism at this point. It's just deliberate propaganda, and it's why independent investigative work like Lewis Aaron's, like Sneakrets, like even like independent media outlets like ours is vital, because what Lewis has done and what we're all trying to do at the moment is just pull back that curtain and that facade, and reveal the scam that's being shown at the moment. Because if we don't call this shit out, then the immigration debate will be permanently poisoned. And I think that's about more than one fake think tank. It's about a whole political ecosystem that's willing to deceive the public to push some racist narrative. We're seeing people literally get attacked over these false figures and these false stats, and that should alarm anyone who values truth in public life.
Yeah. Just to say, it's flagrantly, not
Yeah, I
flagrantly.
was trying to say it really quite like flagrantly. Flagrantly.
Well, we've
Oh,
got.
you didn't hear me.
No,
You
we've
always,
got. I've just seen Edward's comment there in the comments. Flagrantly is the word, Cal. They don't smell nice. But no, it's interesting, isn't it, that they so many of these media outlets are very happy to use this information. And the problem is as well is that people see figures like that. I was at a protest recently outside one of the hotels, and I was talking to people on both sides of the debate there, and there were people that had gone out to protest at this hotel who were seemingly genuinely frightened of the fact that there was, going to be some male asylum seekers being moved into the hotel. And the fears that they had, some of those fears had come from figures like this.
yeah.
And it wasn't like, don't get me wrong, there was some complete raving lunatics there as well who were just complete and utter racist so-and-sos. But for those other people, that when people see statistics like that and they're told that those stats are true, and then they're told, oh, and by the way, we're going to move a load of these men into your neighborhood now from wherever else. The natural result of that is that people are going to be frightened, and people are going to be upset and scared and go out and protest. And I mean, how much do you think that this misinformation, like the data from this made-up think tank, is fueling the increase in protests that we're seeing at the moment?
Yeah, because they're the 75% who read a headline. Like they're part of the issue. I'm sorry. Like I think we need to start teaching people how to critically think or to fact check things. Like I can't believe we need to tell adults to do this shit, which is really sad. It's a sad reality that we live in. But I have to now tell adults like, "Hey, hello, wake up. Can you fact check this please? Have you looked at multiple sources, or are you just focusing on GBBs at the moment? Like fucking wake up." And I feel like I'm such a pessimist now, because when I'm seeing, and it's hard for me to sympathize with people who go out and protest about displaced people who are literally fleeing conflict because of our complicity in that and our selling of arms and all of this sort of stuff. It's really hard for me to feel sorry for them, because they are the ones who are, like you said, behaving out of fear because of these fake figures. If you ask them what a think tank is, they probably wouldn't be able to tell you, which is so fucking rude of me. But I didn't know any of the facts that I know now without doing the research that I did, and I did it because I wanted to find out the truth. I don't know why people don't want to do that, but well, no, I do because it's
But they do that, Sarah.
no,
They, but
they
they,
don't
no,
find
but
out
they
the
do.
facts.
They
No,
they
no,
do.
they
They
fall
go.
into propaganda.
Yeah, but they do their own research. You know, I lost a really good friend to
On
conspiracy theories
Facebook.
during COVID because she did her own research and she went away and watched some, you know, random YouTube channels and read some articles on Facebook and that constitutes doing your research
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's right. Graduating from the University of WhatsApp
and
and
getting to the
Facebook is
truth.
it's
But the problem is these people do it though. But they believe this shit, and that's the scary thing, right? They believe this shit, which is why it is so important that we see journalists, you know, whether it's independent media outlets like ours or you know the mainstream, doing the fucking work. That no disrespect to Lewis, two bloody TikTok creators and obviously one of our fantastic contributors here at Turn Left did a much better job at doing than they've been doing. Like Lewis says in the video, you know, it shouldn't be, you know, one bloke on TikTok and his friend that does all the work to debunk these figures. There are so many, and it's not even just the ones that, you know, push the mainstream, you know, narrative. There are so many really well-respected journalists out there who haven't even bothered to try and debunk this shit.
no.
You know, I mean, so
Because
yeah, like I don't even know what to say.
no, because it sells, doesn't it? It sells, and it also brings more news, right? So you got more people going out and protesting against things that they're scared by, what they think is a danger to them. And the fact of the matter is, like you said, yeah, research means very, very different things to different people. Like for some people, it's like scrolling on on Facebook and WhatsApp and whatever and getting a forwarded message. For some others, it is just trying to fact check the things that they read online too. But I think we need to start teaching these things. We need to start making this common language. The saddest part of all of this, that even with Lewis's video, which is debunking a lot of facts, you'll still have people saying, "Oh, but you're just a woke lefty. You're a commie. You're just a socialist. Look at you. You're part of the establishment." You'll still have people like that. Do I think that there are some redeemable people out there that will come to the other side and actually wake up? Yeah, I do. But I don't have the patience now at this point to be like, can you not see that this is wrong? What I will do is obviously call it out 100% because we're seeing people being harmed as a result of disinformation. And that is what I'm afraid of. I'm sick and tired of people standing outside of hotels saying we are scared of these men, or doing this 1 in 4 people who come into this country are committing sexual offences against our British population. And I'm like, okay, what about the three out of the 4 as well who are British-born native men? So the fact of the matter is that people are falling into this propaganda.
That was Jess Gill that used that
Yes.
talking point, wasn't it?
It was.
That said, though, if given people are falling for this shit and they are believing this nonsense, and that is leading to them going out and protesting and you know, behaving in the ways that they are, and that is also leading to more people saying, right, we're going to vote for the likes of Nigel Farage. Is there a responsibility for people like us on the left to try and educate these people and try and talk to these people and allow them to you know, to show them that they're misinformed? Or is the alternative just that we sit back and say, well, if you want to see the country get fucked, off you go and fuck up the country and you know, let them reap what they sow? Because the reality is that the way that we're heading, we are going to end up in a situation where, because of this bullshit, we end up in a situation where Nigel Farage is PM and Reform UK are running the country. And if that happens, it's, you know, I'm going to be all right. I'm a white cis heterosexual man. You know, I might be done for speaking out against government, but you know, I'm not going to be persecuted for any protected characteristics. It's the minoritized groups that are really going to be hit hard the most by this. And I worry that if we, like, I hear what you're saying, that, you know, you're sick of talking to some of these people at this point because they aren't going away and doing their own research. But if they're not going to do it and we're not going to try and educate them, what happens? Do we just let them get into power and let people suffer, or like, well, like what
No.
how do we tackle it?
unite on the left. Like, we just need to unite on the left. I think we're still so disjointed. We're still very much like, well, do you even know what socialism means? Do you know what communism means? Do you know what this means? Like, sometimes we can be such elitist fucks. Like, we need to just unite. I think we can be such a strong force on the left that Farage won't even come into question. Do you know what I mean? If we actually just stood together and we weren't so catty-ratty with each other, I think we might actually find that we actually see some progress. We need strong voices on the left, the same way that people like Farage are able to get all of these populist votes. Like, this populist rhetoric is what's getting him in there, getting these his polls up. I think if we can start capitalizing on the same sort of like bravado and harshness that they have on the right, but with the thing, because I know for a fact that if we put the things that we are passionate about on the left and the things that the right are passionate about, here, if we didn't even, without saying where we stand politically, we'd find that a lot of the things that we put down, we actually agree on. So by doing that, I think we can actually get lots of people who are politically homeless, don't know where to vote, politically apathetic, whatever, to come to the left. I think all we can do is represent ourselves in the best possible way.
Mm-hmm.
We are not Starmer's left. We do not agree with Starmer. We don't like Lammy. Oh, funnily enough, the right fucking hate Starmer and they fucking hate Lammy. But they just think all of us are Starmer commies for some odd reason. But I think the answer is uniting on the left. What I'm not going to do, I've done it so much on TikTok, Callum. You've seen me. I used to do lives all the time. I used to get over 300 people in there literally screaming at me from the right. And now I don't have the capacity to do it anymore. I find myself getting so enraged. I don't have the patience of a saint anymore. I find myself getting enraged at the fact that, oh my God, you actually believe this shit. And I'm just going to get angry at you. And then you're going to feel like so disconnected from the left. So I would be part of the problem. So yeah. I don't know. I think just unite.
I would ask how we unite the left, but I feel like that's going to take a whole show.
That would take a whole show. I think we probably should get to the comments.
Yeah, we probably should. Let's go to the comments. Let's see where we're up to. So, Les has gifted 5 Turn Left memberships. Thank you for that, Les. We're really grateful for that.
Thank you.
As always. We've got Graham Taylor, Phil, Mike, Terry.
Thank you.
The Randomo guy as well. And Ephra, who said, brilliant work. Well done, Lewis, with a £3 super chat. Thank you for that. Right, Nicola has said, Paris is gorgeous, as is the food. Yeah, it's expensive, though. That's the only problem.
Yeah. And Parisian men. Oops. I said
what, are you saying they're gorgeous? Or
they're gorgeous!
You're saying they're expensive?
Both. Swiss men are expensive. Joking.
Graham said, my sister has started dating a guy called Kia, and I feel bad because automatically didn't like him because of Starmer sharing his name. Yeah, that has been known to happen, unfortunately. Oh, dear me. Nicholas said, Sultana, as far as I am concerned, is saying all the right things and is taking absolute zero shit from anyone, which is what we need. We certainly do, and there's a lot, trust me, there's a lot of people that don't like her that are trying to, to shut her up, and she's not standing for it.
She's really good. She's good. I think that's what the left needs. The left needs a real solid voice, right? And someone who's got character, someone
and a strong female voice as well.
Yeah, agreed. Like, so I think she definitely is formidable. So I can't wait to see her just flourish, and also her social media presence, fucking incredible. Like, I think that's a really good thing to capitalize on, and she's doing a great job at that.
Mm-hmm. Edward, they arrested a blind fella in a wheelchair, for fuck's sake. Yeah, they did. Yeah, I mean, I can't. I've got nothing to say about that.
No, it's just insane. It's insane. I've got nothing to say on that. But it's like, does that not like indicate how far the lengths that they're going to, like the extent that they're going to try and silence people who are opposing genocide?
Yeah. Well, I know we've got more than this. Autumn, Sarah, please be my MP if you have time.
Autumn, I'm such a potty mouth.
Do you have the time? You can be a positive. Listen, right. When Zach Polanski did his viral video on the beach.
Oh yeah.
Was it not the word bullshit he said? People were like, oh my god, are you allowed to swear? Like, can I sent it to my partner and she messaged me back and she said a politician's allowed to use swear words. I'm like, of course he can.
I don't think I could be a politician. I think I've said too much.
No, you'd say it. Your problem, Sarah, will be is you'd do it in the House of Commons and it would get you kicked out.
It would. I'd be like, what? You fucking lib. Get out of my face. Yeah, I would.
Order!
Yeah, they'd kick me out immediately.
Will the honourable lady withdraw, please? Or withdraw from the chamber.
Literally.
Les has said, but, quote, support should mean providing money, resources, weapons, a bloody place to hide, not holding up a placard with some words on it. Come on. I mean, that is interesting because a lot of the quote unquote support that these protesters have for Palestine Action, they're not necessarily saying that they support the actions that Palestine Action are taking. They are supporting them on the basis of the fact they don't believe they should have been prescribed as a group. So they're not even saying, we agree with them carrying out illegal acts of what I suppose the government would describe as violence against property. The fact that can even be a thing. They're not necessarily saying they support those actions. That many of them are saying that they don't think they should have been prescribed, and they're actually protesting against the prescription, which isn't the same as, like you say, Les, providing money to them, being a member of, giving them weapons, or hiding them in the loft.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're absolutely right, Les. Like it's insane to think that some words on a placard are going to get you but it's not even just some words on a placard. It's actually words that I don't think people should be opposing. That's again my personal opinion, that people should be opposing when it comes to a genocide. But I think there needs to be room for a bigger debate about. I don't even know what is a terrorist at this point. I've got to be honest. Like, we've got the definition.
Under the definition, it includes violence against property. If that's even a word,
the thing is, but the reason why I'm saying that is because when we see complicity in the violence that's happening, when you see thousands and thousands and thousands of people's lives be have been lost to this genocide, or thousands of kids dying, or kids literally. I did a story on Sudan last week about people eating animal feed. Like, when you see this sort of stuff, is that not an act of terrorism to be inflicting such harm on these people? Like, that's why I'm saying, is this just a word that you just pop anywhere that you want to?
I saw a TikTok the other day of someone that was filming at this protest who was like screaming at the police, telling the police that David Lammy had given financial support and political support to a terrorist organisation, a group that had been prescribed. I can't remember exactly who it was, so apologies for only coming with half the crack. But and the video showed like photo evidence of this and what have you, and the police just stood there and did nothing. And it's kind of like, well, hang on a second, when we've got a government who are literally arming a state that is committing war crimes, when we're still sending fighter jet parts to Israel that are being used to bomb journalists and commit war crimes, why are the police not knocking at the door of number 10 and taking the inhabitants away with them? Why are they in Parliament Square arresting 85-year-old women who sat there with a sign? It's just
and when you look at the staggering number of people who have been arrested at this protest, I don't know, it says a lot. Like, I don't know, do you know how many people were arrested? Because I've just seen a comment at the Southport riots.
No, but it certainly wasn't this many in one go.
Exactly.
Over the course of the summer, I don't have the numbers. I imagine it was
not this many.
It wasn't
this
many.
Fact.
No,
exactly.
This is one of the biggest, largest numbers of people that have been
arrested.
You
had. I'm just going to remind you had people attacking police officers literally bloodied up, attacking police dogs, damaging public property.
And let's
Like,
also
make it make
remember,
sense.
we also had the leader of UKIP doing a Nazi salute in the streets only days ago.
Yep,
Like, where's his arrest for supporting a prescribed group?
this is what I'm
You know,
saying. That's why I said what I said. Yeah, very, very wishy-washy.
yeah, it's certainly causing them problems. Turn left is brilliant. Thank you all. You're very welcome, Si. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Our community is brilliant. You're
We've got a
brilliant.
great community.
The people
We
in our
really
comments
do.
are brilliant.
Yeah.
Segue. Honestly embarrassing how our press will uncritically accept anything that even purports to come from a think tank. Well, it's that whole, it's the whole slow news day thing, isn't it? Where it's like, well, if we haven't got a proper story, we'll just say, well, this think tank, because anything can come from a think tank.
Yeah.
Speaking of, actually, the Turn Left think tank has got data that shows that if people haven't hit the subscribe button and they've not liked and they're not sharing and taking part in our community and putting our content out there, that they are statistically more likely to just not be very great people. And that's from the Turn Left think tank. So
yeah, very reliable think tank. By
must
the
be
way.
reliable. Flo Snaker said serious damage to property and damage to electronic communication systems are the two most problematic parts of the dodgy definition. That's Article 1 of the Terrorist Act of 2000. Yeah, and this is the issue, isn't it? When but it's, I blame capitalism for this, where property is held at a higher at a higher standard than human beings and life.
Yeah, that is capitalism.
It's like, oh yeah, okay, so we're complicit in a genocide, and tens of thousands more people have been slaughtered at the hands of weapons that we are providing in some instances to the state that's responsible. But how dare you throw paint on an aeroplane? How dare you? You're a terrorist.
Yeah, fucking insane. Oh, thanks.
Just seen TikTok Muse's comment. Won't somebody please think of the profits? Graham, thank you, Les Watts, for the membership. And thank you, Graham, for the super chat as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Nicola, great show. Thank you both and everyone here. Having a great evening. I was a good girl and have done both.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nicola. We appreciate you. And shout out to Curtis, by the way, who is producing in the background, but he's a little bit poorly today. That's why he's not speaking to you all. But he's doing a good job, I think.
That's really it for comments.
Yeah. Do we have any more, or is that it?
I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Thanks. that's Curtis out. Thanks.
Well, I think that's probably. We've got, what's this? I'm wearing my criminality as a badge of honour, says Nicola to Les. That's probably all we've got time for. So thank you to all of our viewers that tuned in, as always. And of course, thank you to the wonderful Sarah for joining me tonight. Really appreciate having you here. And shout out to Curtis, who's working away in the background as well. Remember to like the stream. And if you're not a subscriber, hit that button. If you want us to grow, then you can head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support, where there is a link to our Patreon, where you can support us monthly or follow the other link to give us a one-time contribution. Alternatively, you can become a member on YouTube for just 99p, or you can be one of the lucky ones who are gifted a membership by our wonderful community. We're always grateful for your support, and a huge thank you to each and every one of you. We will be back on Wednesday for another Normal Island, but until then, thank you for joining us. I'm Callum Taylor, and it's goodbye for now.
Support independent media, support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.